Okay, sorry I'm a few minutes late. I forgot to press the click to go live button. Welcome. I'm glad you could join me today. I'm going to talk about Instant Pot corned beef and cabbage. The pressure cooker is a great way to cook corned beef and cabbage, and they were talking about how much they loved my recipe in the Cooking Recipes and Friends Facebook group. So Linda thought it would be a great idea to do a little video about how to cook my recipe in the pressure cooker. So we're just going to get started. So first off, what is corned beef? Corned beef is just a beef brisket like you'd often get at a barbecue place, but instead they preserved it in salt. So the salt are called corns of rock salt, so that's why it's corned beef. Doesn't have anything to do with corn. It's just a way of preserving it. So that is kind of misleading, but most people like to eat corned beef on St. Patrick's Day. It's kind of an American tradition, and corned beef is usually on sale this time of year. So I know Costco had some for like $3.99 a pound, and I think I've seen it as low as like $2.99 a pound. And often after St. Patrick's Day, you can get it on sale. So you don't have to just have it for St. Patrick's Day. You can buy one and stick it in the freezer and then have it another day. So the cut that I like to use for my corned beef and cabbage is a flat cut. There are two corned beef types. There's a flat cut and a point cut. So the flat is kind of the end, and this is it right here. See how it's nice and even, so that it cooks nice and even. And then it has this layer of fat on the top, and that kind of melts as it's cooking in the pressure cooker and kind of makes the corned beef tender and juicy. But you can also get a point cut. The point cut tends to be a little fattier. You might have some more little pockets of fat throughout it, and it can be varying height. So that's why I like to use a flat cut, but if you have a point cut, it'll work good too. I use a 90-minute cook time for my flat cut for a 3-pound flat cut, but just check if you're using a point cut and it's a little thicker. Just check and make sure it's as tender as you'd like, and if it's not, don't be afraid to just lock the lid back in place and cook it just a little bit longer. So I'm going to get started on my corned beef. I invited my kids over to have dinner tonight, and so this is the corned beef that I'm going to feed to them. So we're not going to have a finished dish to show you, but I'm going to show you all the steps so that you know what you're doing. Let's talk about the seasoning packets. Now, in the U.S., most of the time corned beef comes with a little seasoning packet, and the seasoning packet just has like peppercorns and coriander, mustard seed, red pepper flakes. It depends on the brand you get, but they're all very similar, and I like to use it because it really does add a lot of flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the bottom. Then, to flavor our broth and flavor the corned beef, we're going to put in an onion. And my husband always cuts things up for me, and he just cut that onion into 8s. It's just going to break down in the broth, so there's no really need to dice it. And this is 8 cloves of garlic, which seems like a lot, but it's really going to flavor your corned beef a lot. So that's all we're going to add right now. I like to use a rack to put the corned beef on. The main reason I like to use the rack is to make it easier to get out of the pot afterwards. So you don't absolutely have to have a rack. You can put your corned beef directly on top of the onions, but it is easier to get your meat out of the pressure cooker if you're using a rack. So I'll go ahead and just put my corned beef right on my rack, and then it just slides down. Okay, I'm going to grab a paper towel because touch the corned beef. All right, and whenever you're pressure cooking, of course, you need broth. You need some sort of liquid to create the steam, which causes the pressure to rise and seals up and cooks your whatever you're cooking in there. So we're going to add 4 cups of beef broth. I'm just pouring that in on top of my corned beef, and it will come up along the sides just a little bit. As the liquid boils, it will braise this corned beef, and it will be so tender and juicy. It's really awesome. Okay, so that's all there is to it. It's so simple. We'll just lock the lid in place, which is always hard when you're doing it backwards. Okay, and then with this on the Duo Evo, you have to have plugged in. That always helps. So I'll plug that in. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to pressure cook. And then I'm going to use custom. And then I'll turn the dial till it says 90 minutes. 90 minutes is an hour and 30 minutes. There we go. And then on the Duo Evo Plus, it has a start button. So like I said, the Duo Evo Plus automatically resets to the sealing position. If you're using a different pressure cooker, if you're using the Duo that many of you have, make sure you've got your lid set to the sealing position. That's super important. Okay, so we're going to pretend that the meat has finished cooking. After it's finished cooking, you're going to want to take it out. Use some, it'll be hot, so use some those silicone gloves or hot pads, whatever you have, and just set it aside and tent that meat. It'll stay nice and warm for a while while you cook the vegetables. You don't want to cook your vegetables with the meat because a 90-minute cook time is way too long for vegetables. So you'd end up with just mushy, destroyed vegetables. So I like to use a basket just because it's easy to get your vegetables out after cooking. You certainly don't have to use a basket. There's going to be lots and lots of great tasting juices from the meat and the broth and the onions, all that. So you want to cook these vegetables in that broth because it's going to flavor these vegetables so well. My recipe calls for 6 medium red potatoes quartered. I bought these cute little potatoes at Costco, so I didn't have to quarter them because they're already the tiny little ones. So those are in my basket. I've got some red ones and some of the white ones, and then we've got 3 carrots, and they're cut up into fairly good sized pieces, and then you'll just set your cabbage on top. So just depending on how many people you're serving, you want to. It's okay if it goes above the fill line a little bit, but since I'm doing so much potatoes and cabbage today because I'm having family over, I'm actually going to cook in 2 batches. So I'll do my cabbage in 1 batch and the potatoes and carrots in another one. But all you'll do is use that hot liquid that's already in there, and then you'll put these vegetables in. You'll lock your lid in place and then just set it for a 3-minute cook time. It will take a while for it to come to pressure, even though the liquid is hot, just because you have so many vegetables in there. So just be aware that it's going to take maybe 5 minutes for it to come back to pressure. So that'll include part of the cooking time, but yeah, it's super easy. That's all there is to it. It's so easy to have a fun corned beef and cabbage meal. One thing I forgot to mention though was rinsing your corned beef. So it comes usually sealed up in a package, and you cut it open, and then there'll be like a slime on top of it, and then it'll be really salty, briny liquid in there, and you just want to rinse that off well so that your broth and your flavoring here isn't as salty, and you want to kind of get rid of that slimy texture. So yeah,
Gail says hi.
Gail says hi. Hi, Gail. I see Janine's there, and Linda.
Janet wants to know how much water.
Jen wants to know how much.
Janet
Wants to know how much water. We used 4 cups of beef broth, so we didn't use any water. We've used 4 cups of beef broth. Any other questions? So I wish I could show you the after picture, but like I said, I'm feeding this to my family, and it's 90 minutes from now. I'll go ahead and in the comments, Jen couldn't be with me today because she's isolating at home, and so she's on her computer answering questions, and she'll send a link to the recipe. And there's a beautiful picture on the recipe post of the final dish. I'll plate it up with the carrots and potatoes and cabbage. That's the other vegetable. So it's a really nice, I want to call it a one-pot meal because you only are dirty in the one pot, even though you're cooking the vegetables later.
Maria Delvecchio wants to know, what setting do you use?
Maria wants to know what setting we use. So we're cooking it at 90 minutes on high pressure.
And Nancy says hers your natural pressure releasing right now.
Oh, Nancy's got one natural pressure releasing right now. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't mention that when the corned beef is finished, when the 90 minutes is up, you want to do a 10-minute natural release. For those of you that are new, a natural pressure release is just not doing anything. You just let the pressure release for 10 minutes, and then you can go ahead and quick pressure release. And a quick pressure release, all you do is either open the valve or just turn the knob from sealing to venting. And that's a quick pressure release. So you'll use a 10-minute natural release when you're cooking the corned beef. But then when you're done cooking your vegetables, you want to avoid overcooking them. So you switch to venting as soon as the time is up. And that's a quick pressure release.
Lisa says she used 2 cups and she's worried that it's not enough. It's 45 minutes into the cooking.
Okay, so you use 2 cups. Lisa says she used 2 cups of liquid and she's afraid that it's not enough. 2 cups is enough. You may not have the same braising effect, but 2 cups is plenty. Even in an 8-quart, 2 cups of liquid is plenty. I just prefer 4 cups so that the meat's actually in the broth a little bit. But it's going to be boiling in there, and you'll be fine with your 2 cups.
Mary says, do you keep the keep warm function on?
Do we keep the keep warm function on? That's a great question. People often want to know. So it really doesn't matter because the keep warm function doesn't kick in until the pressure has been released. It goes by the temperature. I think it's 147 degrees before the keep warm function starts to work. So that is after the pressure has been released. So it'll be hotter than that inside until after the pressure has released. Sometimes I like to turn it off so that I don't forget to do it later. But when you're doing the 10-minute natural release, it's nice because it'll start to count up for you. So the keep warm feature will tell you how long it's been since the pressure stopped, since the Instant Pot stopped cooking, stopped heating to create pressure. And so that's one nice feature of the keep warm setting that I like. So I usually leave it on if I'm doing a natural release for 10 minutes. And then at 10 minutes, I'll turn it off or unplug it and then release the pressure. That way I never forget and leave this pressure cooker on the keep warm setting for hours while I'm gone about doing other things.
Lindy asks, she's running late, she turned in late. Is the meat on a trivet?
Yes. Lindy asked if I put the corned beef on a trivet. And I like to do that. I like to have it on a trivet For a couple of reasons. When you're braising meat, it's nice to have it off the bottom a little bit, but you could do that with onions. But the main reason I like to do it is just easy. It's easier to get it out of the pot once you're done cooking. All right, I think that's all the questions. I really appreciate you joining me today. I will be answering, Jen and I will be answering questions all day long, and even through St. Patrick's Day. If you have questions, just add them to it, and we'll help you get your corned beef and cabbage cooked. So thanks for joining us.